Recording is in progress.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So as always, I do start these events every week with the acknowledgement of those who came before us on this land. So I do say a land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples. We recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We are grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources. We are committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we are on is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. So I will again share my screen. Just give me 1 sec to start the presentation. Oops, this might. Screen. Let's see better. Okay, thank you. Actually, the other thing before I do actually start the presentation, I do usually as well recount the events that are coming up. And today, actually Thursday, April 21st, is World Creativity and Innovation Day. So actually this day was celebrated on April 21st every year. World Creativity and Innovation Day is a global UN day celebrated to create awareness about the significance of creativity and innovation in today's world, especially in the problem-solving aspect with respect to the UN global goals. World Creativity and Innovation Day was founded on 25th of May 2001 in Toronto, Canada. The founder was the Canadian Marcy Segal, who began studying creativity in 1977 at the International Center for Studies in Creativity. And as I noted as well for the past 2 weeks, some people do consider this to be Earth Month. If you search for the words Earth Month, you will see that April is Earth Month, a call to action for sustainable change. April 4th was the 57th or 52nd anniversary of Earth Month. The links that I'm sharing give more information. I'm going to include a link to a Canadian website called Let's Talk Science, which states that they are committed to preparing youth in Canada for future careers and citizenship demands in a rapidly changing world. In the USA, the Solutions Project celebrates Earth Month and something called Earth Day 365. In their description, they note that for decades, Black, Indigenous, immigrant, and other communities of color, as well as poor communities, have been at the losing end of decision after decision that puts polluting industries at their doorsteps. But instead of sitting on the sidelines, they're building power and enacting some of the most cost-effective and creative solutions to address the consequences of the climate crisis. They are working toward these solutions every day, not just on Earth Day. It's time that we acknowledge, support, and begin to implement these ideas on a larger scale. Let's get busy building the future we want. This is from that website. And of course, tomorrow is International Mother Earth Day, otherwise known as Earth Day, Friday, 22nd April, where the UN Assembly proclaimed Earth Day 22nd of April as International Mother Earth Day through a resolution adopted in 2019, where the day recognizes the Earth and its ecosystems as humanity's common home and the need to protect her to enhance people's livelihoods, counteract climate change, and stop the collapse of biodiversity. Also coming up this week is World Immunization Week, starting on the 24th of April, going through the 30th of April. This is from the World Health Organization, where World Immunization Week is a global public health campaign to raise awareness and increase the rates of immunization against vaccine-preventable diseases around the world each year during the last week of April. And finally, Sunday is the International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace. So Sunday, April 24th, International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace seeks to reaffirm the UN Charter and its principles of resolving disputes among countries through peaceful means. The day acknowledges the use of multilateral decision-making and diplomacy in achieving peaceful resolutions to conflicts among nations. So, as always, again, I start presentation by giving recognition to our supporters and sponsors, in particular Andrew Networks, the door opening network of the Global Unity Network, weekly Thursday Zoom calls, which are committed to take place through to December 29th, 2023. Andrew Networks also rebroadcasting production-ready episodes on AHIABGA-TV domain, being redirected to the UCIT-TV site. You may also notice that our logo indicates that this is 21 to 23 IGU Summit event. We plan to continue delivering these Thursday events until the end of 2023 in alignment with the UN Global Compact 2021 to 23 vision and strategy. Again, I put in some of the relevant links into the chat. You'll see the logos on the page. For example, the Maui Aloha Project, the 5 Points Youth Foundation, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Future Lift Foundation, Global Peace Let's Talk, the American International Education Federation, the EdFu Foundation, the Conservancy Trust, the Saga Foundation, the LA Global Foundation, as well as our own logos for the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, the Greater Unity Network, the Indigenous Unity Flag, the Unity 4K Clubs, and the HEPTA Matrix Partnership Template of the Global Unity Business Group, or UnityNet International, and many more. Again, I'll put in some of the relevant links into the chat here for people to link and find out more information about each one of these organizations. So again, it is Andrew Networks that donates our hosting and promotional support services. Andrew Networks being a brand domain name owned by PerXTC Export Trading Company, comprising the various social media channels, including TRN TV, Universal Citizens Media Networks, Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr., and many more. Andrew Networks is not only our primary sponsor supporting the promotional ecosystem for the Global Unity Network initiative, this Indigenous Global Unity Summit, which continues through to December 29th, 2023, as stated, but Andrew is our Yes, Yes, Yes partner, helping to open doors so that members of our network are able to discover their inner selves and passions, where Andrew Networks is working with the people who occupy the various nodes of the Global Unity Network, so we can come together with the people of the network, acting as a net to support the dreams of our members so that they can leverage their passions, transform their visions of a better future for themselves and their communities into a reality that makes sense for themselves and their communities, however they might define what that better future is collectively, as they seek to work together in partnership and leave no one behind. Again, putting some information about Andrew Networks into the chat. So Andrew also founded the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Advocates, and Activists in September 2019, with their focus on localizing the Sustainable Development Goals during this decade of action and delivery on the SDGs, which is from 2020 to 2030. Andrew did appoint me as representative for Canada, the Francophonie, and the Commonwealth of Nations, originally in January 2020, later appointed as representative for Turtle Island in early 2021. The ambassadors can be found at the link. So I am Lloyd Halferty, the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and a Sustainable Society Consultant for Energyme University, headquartered in Manhattan. I am, however, located in the city of Markham in the Greater Toronto area of Southern Ontario in Canada. Energyme University, a private 501(c)(3) nonprofit company in New York, a member of the UN Global Compact, United Nations Academic Impact Member and partner. Energyme University is a virtual university created to help empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments. Energyme does this by designing and implementing projects that support a strong and diversified local economy while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into the local communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, and systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. Energyme is supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. Importantly, Energyme University supports local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all of the various integrated solutions for achieving closed-loop systems that support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. My information is also in the chat. So I am the co-founder and administrator of the We Energyme Global Cooperation Turtle Island International Civil Society Organization, seeking to undertake life value peace education in the context of what we call life learning gardens. So this organization, I'm just seeing a message here. I put the link into the chat. I was also designated as a Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Point Youth Foundation in Los Angeles with a portfolio that covers, again, Canada, the Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities. As the member of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and activists, we are seeking to empower our communities to engage with royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as helping local communities to establish interfaith, neighborhood, academic, and business collaboratives that will come together and pledge to support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are localizing the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals, while we seek ways to leave no one behind. Again, I am putting information about the organization into the chat. You can see some links on the screen as well. So I am, as I said, a co-founder of the Global Unity Business Group, which originally came together as a coalition of small businesses in order to establish, manage, and grow the Global Unity Network, now referred to mostly as UnityNet. As a result, the original Global Unity Business Group, which I have been describing as a humanitarian enterprise and global sustainable and regenerative development corporation, supporting and promoting the local delivery of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure, set up as Life Learning Gardens, along with a hybrid virtual learning platform we call the VCN, or Interchange for Peace, is being rebranded now as UnityNet International in alignment with our first continental chapter, UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. And while the original Global Unity Business Group was created in order to formalize the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board process of localization of global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals, done by the establishment of the Global Unity Network, including the Unity Gardens, Unity Learning Networks, and many other dedicated Unity networks, which are, of course, important components of our network of networks. The latest way that I have been describing who we are is as a network of people and organizations supporting the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board process of localization of the global goals, currently the SDGs, in the global transition to a regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Essentially, we are creating a support network, which I now call a network of Oh, I have to think about it. A support network for all of our members, including the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are helping to implement these local regenerative climate smart solutions that are required to achieve a regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So our existing social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn groups we're using right now are being used as a placeholder as we build the global network, prepare to launch, eventually get all people, companies, nodes of the network onto this Interchange for Peace VCN, where there will be access to the many tools and services that are available, where the members can much more easily collaborate in order to locally implement all of the globally coordinated real-world events, projects, enterprises, and infrastructure. So again, I'll link to some of our existing top-level social media. So the Global Unity Network was created to showcase global cooperation for the implementation of the local regenerative solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the 17 SDGs. Our goal is to help uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are being mostly left behind because the existing economic paradigm is very much focused on making money for those who are already wealthy by extracting resources through the exploitation or over-exploitation of people and the natural world, and therefore the majority of people on Earth are mostly being ignored by our existing highly competitive economy. Our focus is thus on the billions of people who exist or subsist on the economic sidelines, where we intend to start our work by helping local communities deliver the various regenerative, local, climate-smart enterprise solutions that people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies require in order to thrive. Our entry point, in particular, on these communities that are the most food insecure. Again, I put in the Global Unity Network social media site. So the Global Unity Network is promoting the delivery of a suite of practical solutions for achieving the global goals, starting with the Sustainable Development Goals during this SDG period until 2030. We are focused on using the tools of humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing on the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and enterprises, using a hybrid virtual and hands-on education and training and learning programs, platforms, and curricula, with a primary focus on delivery of the various humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in the practical settings, practicum learning as it's called, along with leveraging various open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions remotely to assist local INABC teams to establish local collaborative open source Unity Garden classrooms in all local communities around the world. So the Unity Garden classrooms set up in collaboration with existing schools and local communities can be used for the local and remote and virtual delivery of the practicum learning programs for all of these FFHE members, as we call them, so we can learn how to grow, process, cook, market, sell, trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food and related nutritional and medicinal and other types of locally produced regenerative products, both within their local communities, as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, and internationally, in order to produce income and therefore greater prosperity for themselves and for the people in their own local communities, for all people on all continents, with, of course, the intention and goal of leaving no one behind. Again, I have linked to a smart cities network that we also have. We also promote through the virtual social marketing all of the members of our network. We use all of the various practical social media, networking, and trade tools, including those of the modern Fourth Industrial Revolution, combining the wisdom of crowds with the deep indigenous knowledge of both our ancestors and the living indigenous people of this earth in order to learn from each other about how to share the abundance of this planet in order to create productive, regenerative, climate-smart landscapes wherever we may live in and around each and all of our local communities. Our intention is also to help restore nature and biodiversity, ensure abundance for all, and ultimately restore the human connection to Mother Earth as proper stewards of our one and only beautiful planet. I put in the chat a link to our biodiversity network. So the Ad hoc International Advisory Board process of localization of the global goals is intended to help everyone in each of their own local communities establish local teams of humanitarian entrepreneurs, as well as the local community support network, the INABCs, that provides support and ensure the success of the local cooperative humanitarian enterprises, starting with the Unity Gardens that will be home and will start to be established in each local community across our global network, most likely starting in Africa, but also here in North America and in Asia as well. So the process of establishing the local INABCs is done by taking part in what we call the Abraham Project Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting ceremonies that we plan to do on World Environment Day, June 5th, where some communities will also establish twin trees of peace and reconciliation, and twin unity gardens will be done through the CPTP program process of twinning the local community unity garden humanitarian enterprises and also twinning the local community INAB collaboratives. So what we're building here is a global network of local INAB collaboratives where all the members of each local INAB will be interconnected and watching over and talking to each other at the global level, where each local INAB collaborative will have a diverse set of members from 7 different sectors of the community: public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, and orange economy, the creative sector, and will all also be watching, promoting, and helping each other, supporting the local entrepreneurs in each local community who will be empowered by all of the members of the global network, and where all activities will also be intended to be transparent to all members of the global network, including all members of the local INABCs, will also be accountable to and for the success of the local collaborative Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise. And this means that if the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are living in that local community fail to be successful as they build and run the local collaborative community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise, their business, provided they're mostly and fully dedicated to making it successful for all members of the community, and especially for those who are most marginalized in each of their own local communities. It will not be entirely on their shoulders alone, barring some unforeseen circumstances, acts of God, but rather such failure could also at least partially be blamed on the local community INABC members for not having lived up to their obligations to support and empower the local community humanitarian entrepreneurs who are building, operating, maintaining, and delivering all of the various community programs, events, interventions, goods, and services that will be delivered in the context of their local community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise. So I also suggest as well that community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprises should be established as cooperative enterprises or businesses that are set up in the local community as a co-op, so that the burden of running the business isn't entirely on the shoulders of a single entrepreneur. Different business models, of course, can be tried in order to determine what might actually work best. Putting some information about cooperative enterprises into the chat. So the INABCs are established in the local level or at the local level, where we're leveraging our process of community engagement, initially through the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation planting ceremonies, followed by the ongoing community engagement and interaction through regularly scheduled events throughout the year, including coordinated bubble fun festivals done in collaboration with the local INABC members, the CTP program for twinning community activities, such as tree planting and local regenerative community infrastructure development projects and events, the Tea Diplomacy Initiative, the Dream Boards Initiative, done in collaboration with our C4 group members, identification of engagement with local talent, artists, creative people in the orange economy, for the purpose of promoting and showcasing their talent, especially in promoting the globalization of the global goals and the regenerative economy during any of the periodic sunlight spectrum and other edutainment events. We do accept other programs and activities that may be developed in the context of climate smart gardens and forests, climate smart kitchens. Wheel of Life Farms, and Smart Learning Centers, or Climate Smart Learning Centers, delivered by the PodNet Co-op. So I reinserted this slide because for those who may not have seen this before, the local INAP collaboratives are now being expanded to try to include more critical partners, potentially including Bridges of Hope organization from Kenya, would be focused on the training of the FFHEs in the various regenerative and climate smart businesses and infrastructure solutions, possibly also BIMA International, the Black Emergency Managers Association, that would help to bring together first responders, such as police, firefighters, paramedics, and the local community, in order to help prepare the local entrepreneurs and enterprises and potentially position their businesses as hubs for taking action during emergencies or significant incidents that may happen in the community. And where I have now also included a placeholder for a virtual cultural exchange office of UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, established for the purpose of mutually supporting each of our own local communities, including the FFHE and the rest of the local INAP collaborative members, wherever it is that each of us live. So again, I'm putting some additional links in the chat, specifically for our local UnityNet, the Greater Toronto Area Hub. So you may recall that I once suggested that we wish to consider doing a diplomacy initiative during the week of solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, which was 21st to 27th of March. I had suggested we begin on Monday, March 21st, International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which also happened to be World Poetry Day and International Day of Forests. This opened up the possibility for us to do a virtual tea diplomacy event, which included having conversations related to methods and processes of enabling and implementing solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, discussing some of the local poets and poetry that have influenced local cultures in each respective community, wherever the participants in the virtual discussions might live, along with discussing the importance of establishing productive forests as 3D polyculture food forests established as Unity Forest, Unity Gardens in all of the local communities, managed in partnership with local Indigenous peoples and all levels of government in every local community and country, as an essential part of a process of practical reconciliation with all of the Indigenous peoples of the world, one country, one community, and one watershed at a time. So I will now play for you the poem that was played during the first tea diplomacy event. It's about 2.5 minutes long. Was read by a poet by the name of Jack Black God, who's from a squatter camp, or VVC, called Diepsloot, north of Johannesburg in South Africa. I will first put in some information in the chat as well. Give it a second.
We are people of our own color. 7 seas and 1 big ocean. It doesn't matter how big, small, dark, light, Christian or not you are. We all come from the same origins that when we trace footprints lead us to the central heart of Africa. Because Africa should unite and nothing will bite. Instead, we will forever have peaceful nights. Africa uniting wouldn't be bad, instead it will never hurt. Trees! Allow me to be your garden at least, so that I could plant these poetical seed into your cultivative mind with harvestic thoughts of negativities. We are still enslaved by our own memories. Right now, my broken, beaten bone skeleton wants to escape this flesh. My soul is rejecting this temple hospitality of one. You see, we were never told about the secret ingredients they used to cook this system. This system was cooked with a 4-sized traditional pot, but we were never invited into the inns of financial taste. All you did, black child, was to feast on that racism that was served to you on silver platter. So that my seven colors, shininess of it could blindfold you. Your I have fought has made deals for dessert. But what about the main meal, black child? We are still enslaved by our own memories. See, once upon a time there was I reciting poems with meaningless senses and unengineered sentence language construction. Therapy of my words wounded so many innocent souls I'm lost in translation. Tongue clicks, Ubuntu transplant, guilty to innocent endless transformations. I'm so confused in my lost thoughts. Perhaps I'm losing it, isn't it? Yes. Yes, I've been here and they've all been there, distant relatives. 300 Spartans, the rise of my ancestors to you, godly amen. The last breathless word you would inhale. We are still enslaved by our own memories, yet we are 7 seas and 1 big ocean.
As well, we have also completed our first inaugural Tea Diplomacy Initiative event. We did do that event on Monday, March 21st, 2022, from 8 to 9:30. During this virtual Tea Diplomacy event, we did ask our leaders and other high-level decision makers to sit down virtually and have a cup of tea with some of our Global Unity Network members at the grassroots who are living in and doing work in the various marginalized communities around the world. So the conversations that we asked our participants to discuss during these moderated virtual casual conversations between sustainable development decision makers, professionals, and our grassroots members who are doing some of the on the ground work in the various local communities of the Global Unity Network were related to those 3 themes that I mentioned and that were shown on the previous slide. So the goal was co-hosted by the Global Unity Network, building our network on behalf of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, the Global Forum for Sustainable Rural Development, and Global Peace Let's Talk, along with the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists. So at this point, I want to play the music also of Luvia M, a song called Thulan Lizio. As this is played, I am also going to put the translated lyrics of this song into the chat. The song is about 4.5 minutes long and is our new theme song for the Tea Diplomacy Initiative. We will play it as well as the poem that you just heard at every Tea Diplomacy Initiative event.
Stop.
So I always love listening to that song. I wanted to mention our partners during the Tea Diplomacy Initiative included, of course, Andrew Networks, along with the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity, HOPE, the Saga Foundation, the Gemma Productions, We Energize Global Cooperation, Turtle Island, Drawdown Markham, Climate Change Solutions Education and Training Hub, the Indigenous Global Unity Network, Carbon Shot Earth Sustainable Marketplace for Climate Solutions, the Unity Women and Feminist Network, Tots and Kids South Africa, Jafoa Uganda, the National Federation of Women Farmers and Appropriate Technology in Asia, in Nepal, Trilight Foundation in Malawi, the Soweto CSI Council in South Africa, Gemma Skaters Youth Development Program, Village Synergy in Uganda, and the Global Unity Business Group, Humanitarian Enterprise and Global Sustainable Regenerative Development Corporation, or UnityNet International. Together with the organizations that support and promote this ITU Summit event, including the 5 Points Youth Foundation, the EDFU Foundation, and Cycle of Success. Again, I'm going to put some of those links into the chat for those organizations, as we have many of them that we are coming together to support. Oops, a bit of time to go to the next slide. Sorry about that. Okay, try again. Oops. So what I wanted to mention is that we are planning to do 2 more tea diplomacy events this year, including the second one on Saturday, May 21st, International Tea Day. Wanted to note that May 21st is also World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development, which celebrates not only the richness of the world's cultures, but also the essential role of intercultural dialogue for achieving peace and sustainable development. So our next Tea Diplomacy Initiative event will partner with the UnityNet Culture and Diversity members who are supporting the Global Unity Network plans to establish unique and culturally relevant local Unity Garden infrastructure projects that reflect the local cultures of each country, city, community, or eco-village. And the third Tea Diplomacy event will be on Saturday, June 18th, Sustainable Gastronomy Day, where we will potentially also partner with the Plant-Based Climate Smart Food Network, along with the South Markham Food Security Network, and the Virtual Urban Food and Farming Network, or Urban Farming Network. So I wanted to put into the chat some information about our first International Tea Day, or Tea Diplomacy Day. information about the International Tea Day first, along with some links to information about that day, along with information about the Community Net Culture and Diversity WhatsApp discussion group that we currently have, and information as well about Sustainable Gastronomy Day, June 18th, and the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. I wanted to also mention again the collaborative events that we would like to do in 2022 related to the activities of the Global Unity 4K Club Network, the Unity Gardens Network, and the Unity Eco Village Network, along with the Unity Biodiversity Network, which include this first globally coordinated Abraham Project Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, a showcase project for global cooperation delivered locally in multiple local communities by the members of the Global Unity Network on World Environment Day, June 5th, which is a Sunday in a little over a month and a bit from now, which will allow us to begin establishing a global network of local INAB collaboratives, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives that will lead the way at the local level everywhere in the world to undertaking the various globally coordinated events that we plan to do for the rest of the year. So I will put it in the chat, especially information about our first continental network, along with some of the country networks. So this event is followed by the second globally coordinated Community Bubble Fun Festival event, designed to allow youth and families to have fun while they learn about the miraculous properties of bubbles. How to use the use of bubbles can potentially allow humanity to more easily adapt and perhaps thrive in a warming and changing global climate, especially in areas of the world where the impacts of global warming, climate change will be felt the most severely, including here in Canada, especially in the north, in mountainous areas, as well as in places like sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia. Some possible dates for the globally coordinated Community Bubble Fun Festivals between August 9th at the International Day of World's Indigenous Peoples, which is the International Day of Solidarity with the Struggle of Women in South Africa and Namibia, or National Women's Day. August 12th, International Youth Day, and August 19th, World Humanitarian Day, potentially opening it to having this Bubble Fun Festival on any date between August 9th and 19th, which is an 11-day window. Again, I put in the chat the links to these important events. I want to mention as well the Ubuntu Summit, one of the key events taking place from Global Cooperation Day, October 4th, through to World Food Day, October 16th. So this Ubuntu Summit takes place on October 4th. We did it last year, 2021. The day is also called the Feast Day of St. Francis of Assisi and the Blessing of Animals Day, which are both celebrated by the Catholic state communities. I wanted to put in the chat link to the Ubuntu Summit from last year. And finally, the fourth event, Global Coordinated Climate Smart Youth Forum event, designed to allow youth and families from around the world to learn about and discuss the various regenerative climate smart agriculture and food growing solutions that support achieving SDG 2, zero hunger, and local circular regenerative economies that leave no one behind. Along with learning about the Climate Smart Food Program, all the various components of the Ad hoc International Advisory Board process of localization of global goals, and the smart virtual infrastructure, the Unity Gardens, and the Interchange for Peace that will allow local community INAB collaboratives to gain access to all of the learning programs, the information, the education, the training, the support programs, including the financial support systems that we're promoting through the Global Unity Network, UnityNet, that will internal outlook community members and families to implement local regenerative climate smart humanitarian infrastructure and enterprise solutions in the context of their own neighborhoods and communities wherever they might live. Where the primary host for this Global Climate Smart Youth Forum 2022 event is intended to be Yali International in Nigeria, who will be working in partnership with UnityNet Nigeria, UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, and many of the rest of the members of the Global Community Network as possible, who may wish to contribute, where Yali International is divided into two arms called the Youth Education and Leadership Initiative. Yali is managed by a gentleman by the name of Dr. Monday Amadou from UnityNet Nigeria. Again, I will put in more information about the Climate Smart Food Program into the chat. So we are approaching the end, but I wanted to say finally, an optional event this year. We're still in the process of establishing the INAP collaboratives as local teams, but the globally coordinated community tree planting events will be designed to establish what we call 3D polyculture food forests in local communities around the world, done in all the local communities where the local Global Unity Network INAP collaboratives have been established, where the members of these local community partnerships may wish to establish unity forest, unity gardens that are designed for delivering the various global unity learning programs, such as the Tukitana ED Women Empowerment Program or the Global Unity 4K Club Humanitarian Entrepreneurship Learning Programs for educating young people, their families, and other community members about the various ways of achieving food and nutrition security, SDG 2, zero hunger at the local level, while also implementing many of the other global goals, such as climate action, biodiversity action, gender equality action, clean water action, clean energy action, peace actions, and no poverty actions through their local community enterprises that also aim to leave no one behind. With the last globally coordinated community unity forest unity garden tree planting event could potentially be done during this proposed Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, which will likely also include a hybrid in-person and virtual conference event. Again, I put into the chat information and links to the Global Unity 4K clubs, the CTP program, along with the discussion group for UnityNet Nigeria in particular. So I want to mention as well, the Unity Gardens of the Global Unity Network encourage co-learning, intercultural collaboration, and what is called two-eyed seeing. Unity Gardens are places where children are taught that no being is greater than the next, that we're part and parcel of the whole, that we are equal, that each one of us has a responsibility to the balance of the system, and an understanding that all of the world's species, all of our bio and eco-kin have contributions to make. And this two-eye seeing called Etuaptmonk, a guiding principle for intercultural collaboration, information can be found at the websites that are included in the chat. So this is the new slides for this week that I have added. So before we sign off, I would like, and we don't have a guest speaker this week, I wanted to share with everyone a message for our education system from a gentleman by the name of Radhanath Swami. I wanted to play this video. It is about 5 minutes long, contains some very important messages about things like compassion, kindness, integrity, inner beauty, happiness, character, values, leadership, success, love, hope, and an understanding of the true meaning of success. Actually, Dr. Monday Amadou, also reminded us as well a few days ago that this process of change is like revival, and together we can intend to make the world a better place. Positive change begins with you and I. Everyone can start something small and still be able to create the kind of change the world needs. If each one helps one, As this world goes round, it can be made free from social problems. We in the Global Unity Network, through UnityNet International, are promoting humanitarian entrepreneurship and a future regenerative economy, which encompasses the concept of a collaborative entrepreneurship, a collaborative economy, and collaborative businesses. Cooperatives and such types of businesses are part of that. The empowerment networks that we're building in all of our local communities through the ceremonies of the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation are intended to support and empower such types of local community cooperative enterprises and the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who wish to establish and operate them. We believe that a collaborative regenerative economy can achieve far more positive outcomes for far more people, far faster than a purely competitive economy as it exists today. Of course, to keep prices down, there needs to be some competition within sectors, especially for those who are providing the same or similar goods and services in the same community. But we encourage what we call co-opetition rather than pure competition, which is a winner-take-all mentality. Rather, we want our members to support each other's mutual success so that no one is left behind. In other words, Ubuntu in business. So these are the good, simple Global Unity Net values that we want to be continuously promoted alongside the humanitarian entrepreneurship. In other words, life, value, peace, education. So again,
Professor Loy.
Yes, we will have a chat afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
So I will play this video for everybody. Hopefully this sound will work.
What is happening to our system of education? It is said 50 years ago, some of the major problems in schools included sticking chewing gum under tables, talking in class, and missing deadlines. Today, our schools face gun and knife crime, bullying, and dangerous levels of stress, drug abuse, depression, and suicide. To effectively address the serious challenges that our children face, we need to consider not only the problems with individual students, but the very system of education that they are subjected to. Academic intelligence may make a child successful in the world, but compassion will make them useful. When we teach values alongside academics, we will find that children will be much happier, more successful, and will develop into great leaders that will change the future of our world. The word education is derived from the Latin word educare, which means to lead out or to bring out from within. Education is actually about bringing out the unique individual potential of every child, teaching them how to approach the hurdles, shortcomings, and setbacks of life, while empowering them to be vehicles of love and hope for the world. It is said, if you lose your wealth, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. But if you lose your character, you lose everything. Without stressing these truths, the opposite will be understood by default. That is, if you lose your character, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. If you lose your wealth, you lose everything. It should be a top priority of our education system to ensure that our children get this right. Imagine an education system where children are taught that the only time we should look down on someone is if we can help them up. Imagine a system where children are taught to judge beauty by what is within people's heart, not by their physical appearance. Imagine a system where character is given as much importance as competence, where children are taught that helping 1 billion people is even more valuable than being a billionaire, where as well as learning to raise their standard of living, they are also taught to increase their standard of giving, where children are taught to measure their success by how happy and fulfilled they are, and not how many letters they have after their names. An education system where developing intelligence goes hand in hand with developing compassion. Imagine if, as well as learning the history of our world, they are given the skills to change the future of it. Imagine if, as well as learning to navigate the world, they learn how to navigate their own minds. This is not an imagination. It is possible if we genuinely begin to value kindness over competence, character over success, and integrity above money, and in this way change the system in which our children grow and learn.
So thank you very much. That actually ends the presentation for today. And now, if you wanted to, this is the time we're going to open this up. For instance, Prophet Cox, I know you wanted to say a few words there.
I just had a question. I wanted to get some information on the gastronomy day and what that involved.
Yeah, well, I think I did put the information into the chat with links to that. So we actually do have our next tea diplomacy event already. I didn't, unfortunately, put the link to that into the chat today. I failed to do that. I'm going to perhaps try to find that as well, so that everybody does have that. Just give me a second. I will put that in there. So the gastronomy day is. Let me find that. Oh, I didn't spell it right.
Or just a simple, because I was trying to make sure when I ask, in healthcare, when I think of gastro, I think of the stomach and, that kind of thing. So I didn't know if it had to do with health or what, but is it something, or maybe I was missing something.
Let me see if I can find the original link. It is in the chat somewhere. What does it say? I think I did read it out.
I'm looking at.
I can't find that.
Well, I can check with you later. I don't want to.
Yeah, no problem. We are. This is an open discussion. Anybody can put up their hand as well. If they would like to, if we would like to follow up discussions. Unfortunately, our guest speaker again was not able to.
I'll just Google. Is it Gastronomy Day? I can Google it.
Mm-hmm. So again, I believe it is in the chat.
Lloyd?
Yes.
I did Google it.
Mm-hmm.
Every 18th of June, year in, year out, you may wonder, what in the world is sustainable gastronomy? I believe just that statement clears up an awful lot as to what it is. Sustainable gastronomy.
Mm-hmm. I think
perhaps you could share that link into the chat, Elisa Anise. Thank you.
I'll see if I can do that.
Thank you.
Somewhere along the line. So again, today, there's an open discussion. I'm seeing somebody by the name of Tony Reynolds. I'm hoping that they will be able to open up their microphone, perhaps introduce themselves.
Good morning. I am Tony Reynolds. I am a holistic practitioner, a Reiki master teacher and minister in Kansas City, Missouri. I've enjoyed the presentation this morning. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
She's my guest, and one of the members of our advisory board.
Excellent. Excellent.
We also have Naomi Tranquil, it looks like, who looks new to me, Lloyd.
I'm just not seeing the whole list of people. I just see what's at the top of my screen.
Then
But
Neoma,
yes, certainly, everybody.
well, in particular, Neoma, if you're there and can hear us and can unmute yourself, would you please introduce yourself?
We like as well if people would put their information about themselves into the chat.
Yes, Neoma. Yes, please introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for attending in this meeting. My name is Nima Tranquileno. Is a Unity member, Guinea chapter. And I'm also the project director of Guinea chapter. So I really enjoy the presentation today. So thank you so much.
So you said
Thank you for joining us.
Guinea chapter and project director, yes?
Yes. Yes.
And we have Carlos here too. So I'll turn it back over to you, Lloyd.
All right, thank you. I'm hoping that you can introduce yourself as well, Carlos. I should see who's on the call. I don't always open up the participants list. So many lists and screens on my desktop here.
He may not be able to unmute himself. I've asked him to, but I don't see him replying. Well, I'll turn it back over to you, Lloyd. I just wanted to make sure we got the new. I see Gabriella has raised her hand.
Yes, so Gabriella.
Okay, thank you so much, our coordinator. Thank you so much, Professor Lloyd, for that preparation. I am called Malaika Gabriella Ligami from Uganda, the vision bearer, JAFOR, an aged care organization that advocates for the older persons and the overseas children under from 2 years to 17 years. I'm also the Continental Treasurer at Unity Net African Diaspora and the Vice President at Uganda Chapter, the Secretariat, and also a team member of Andrew Networks, that's AHIABGA-TV. I am so happy to be able to log in for today's meeting. I've been missing the meetings before because of the poor network and the blackouts that we've been experiencing in Uganda, but I'm happy to be part of this session tonight and also for the great presentation. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew. Thank you so much, everyone that's on board, my able leaders. I am here to follow up and contribute tonight. Thank you so much.
I thank you so much, Gabriella. Actually, I also wanted to mention to everybody as well that Gabriella has recently launched a new node of our network called UnityNet Elderly and Seniors Network, as well as we want to support the work that she's doing in JAFOA and expand that work and the good outcomes that she's able to achieve, again, across our entire global Unity network, starting in Africa with UnityNet Africa Diaspora. So Gabriela is leading the charge to ensure that no one is left behind, including our elderly people and seniors around the world. So thank you very much again, Gabriela, for doing that. And if I'll go into my database, I will get the link to that as well to put into the chat. Hopefully this will fit.
Lloyd, can you hear me?
Yes.
I do want to give special recognition. Earlier, Bill Selinsky joined us at the beginning of this presentation, and he was here through most of the presentation, but he certainly was here through your introduction of Energyme University. So for those of you who don't know, Energyme University, through the auspices or efforts of Adam Greenwell, they were the first organization in January 2015 that heeded our call for organizations to join the United Nations Global Compact. So that was actually 7 years ago. And this is part of our ongoing collaboration with them. On their partners page, you'll find the United Nations Global Compact, but also you'll scroll down and you'll find that we too ourselves, 5 Points Youth Foundation, are among many of these organizations that have in fact become part of the Energyme outreach. So I do want to appreciate Lloyd in his representation, not just of AHIABGA, but in his representation of all of these various networks. So Lloyd, my challenge to you will be for us to address each one of these and invite them to join our collaborative going forward, because just as the children will only follow the behavior they see and not what they hear us say, I think it's incumbent upon us to be the ones to first put our skin in the game of launching this drive to bring in 10,000 new members of the United Nations Global Compact in this interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaborative. Thank you.
Well, that's actually a very good idea. I had not even thought so much about that. We should be inviting people directly from Energyme University's partnerships that they've already established. So that makes actually very good sense. And it is something that I will begin that process, perhaps even just today. Actually, I have
Wonderful.
some tasks after this that I'm going to be working to connect actually our team here in Toronto with many of the original members of what we called the CSF Development Group when Drawdown Markham was promoting the CTP program for Prince Edward County back in 2019 when we were
Well, in that
going
regard,
through that first project.
Well, as you just heard, Gabriela is part of the Andrew Network. We have a media team that includes Gabriela. Also, Juliet is here, and Joseph Akinola, who I've got him on another task. But what I'm suggesting is that we decide how best to create a campaign that will be a template that we can use for all of our networks of networks. But let's get it right from the beginning and not rush into this. So perhaps we could have a strategy session later today or as soon as you become available. Thank you.
Okay, well, I would suggest perhaps tomorrow, because I do have some tasks to do today, but we can arrange that perhaps once we're off the call here
Okay.
through the discussion groups on WhatsApp. So I'm seeing, Gabriela, your hand is still raised. I'm not sure if that was new or just a legacy from your previous comments.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I think I'm done what I wanted to say. I just wanted to introduce myself, Professor, but I failed to lower the hand. Let me keep on trying.
All is good. All is good.
Thank you, sir.
So I'm hoping that I'm seeing Gemma Garcia as well on the call. I'm hoping she will introduce herself. She is also here in Canada, but in the western part of Canada, in Calgary. She is also our ambassador for the what's the name of the network, Gemma?
Well, while she's unmuting herself, we also have Dr. Nikki DePina. So you mentioned earlier that there you go, Gemma. We got you.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you for presentation. My name is Gemma Garcia. I'm located in Calgary, Alberta, which is part of the territories of Blackfoot Cree Nation in the southern Sixth Treaty area. And so part of the Turtle Land. And so I've been, I'm providing support to the UnityNet Culture and Diversity Network. And recently, the UnityNet Arts was created as well after the tea diplomacy last March 21st. So it's been good to listen like for last month for the follow-up art pieces like the poem and the music provided for our tea diplomacy event, and looking for possibilities to bring up to the next international tea diplomacy on May, which is 1 month from now. So actually, because I was just thinking that because Earth Day is coming up, I think in 6 days or something like that. So I
One
have
day.
It's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
Yeah, well, sometimes, I mean, Earth Day is one of those days that is set on 22nd, but it's not set to go with a weekday or anything. So
Well, some people celebrate the entire month of Earth Month. So anything you want to do is good. Whenever you want to do it. As a matter of fact, some people believe we have Earth Year every year, but I'll turn that back over to you.
Oh yeah, yeah. And also I have like I guess like thinking on international tea diplomacy and the impact that local poets can have on their communities. It's interesting to think on the goals of UnityNet agencies that want to provide, I mean, bring empowerment to people in their communities through initiatives that bring like better entrepreneurial ventures that are aligned with regenerative goals. So it all, I mean, it's easy like to try to kind of like dedicate 1 hour power off on Earth Day and try to think, I mean, how much we draw on resources. So and try to think on solutions on the household level or like community or on the wider level. So for poets, as it is, like, I guess we're, I mean, as a poet, like I feel like I'm always thinking on both levels of intersection, like local and global. We kind of like tend to centralize. So I was just thinking on Canadian poets, especially Indigenous Canadian poets, like most of the time, like they bring their memory back from histories, from communities, personal and community memories, and it is rooted into their land as it is. So as you said, like they have it more present on a day-to-day basis versus, I mean, if we are kind of like in other set of coordinates, we just kind of like go with a specific day. But for Indigenous poets, language is main vehicle, like language is first. So they have to first consider like what language they use for expression, what are they, I mean, restoring or replenishing or bringing from their own cultural language. So it's always like, it brings another level of reflection. And so it's always community rooted, definitely. So in terms of like, because my own heritage and roots are Hispanic, so I have a poem that is well known, and because it is around trees, you know, like I thought like I may share it with the group in the chat later in the Unity Culture Net for everyone that is in the Cultural and Diversity Network. So it is a poem by Mario Benedetti. Is an Uruguayan poet writer, and he's kind of like Nobel awarded poet. So he's world renowned, and he wrote a poem about trees around, rooted in, known as a species in every different habitats and geographical areas. So it's very illustrative poem of how, trees can symbolize what is specific and unique to communities. And at the same time, as we relate to trees that are close to our land and our roots, we can understand the same feeling of connection in different communities. So the poem in itself like synthesizes a sort of solidarity among trees, which it wants to be reminded for us as human species. We can branch to a similar sort of solidarity, which, it is an idea that is regenerative or is kind of like biophilic, using like a term from architecture that is like we can translate into regenerative goals for businesses and from ventures. Like if we launch first into the goals that want to bring back into reverting our community, we can actually support by reaching out to wider global village as it is, and see not only how the people did things or how they overcame problems in their own communities, which may be different to our own, but we have problems at the end of the day that are maybe similar, even if we come across with different solutions, just like trees are different for different habitats. So it's kind of like a synthetic idea, but it may be good just to kind of like put it in the common thread for Earth Day coming tomorrow.
That's excellent. Actually, I was hoping that it might be possible that you may be able to read that poem to us.
Yeah, I have it. So yeah, if there's time, it's not a long poem. So okay, so yeah, I don't know if I have good time, but so the poem is from Mario Benedetti. I think I have the whole poem, and it's in this, I don't think I can recall the Spanish name, but it's an English translation. So, and it's from tree to tree. Are the trees in solidarity with one another? Let's say the chestnut in the Elysian fields of the Quebracho in Entre Rios, or the olive trees in Jaén, caring of the willows in Tacuarembó. Will the Westphalian oak warn the slender Tyrol larch tree to better manage its turpentine? The rubber tree in Pará, or the baobab by the shores of the Cuanza, are they perchance to blame for the green angst of that cypress in Mission Dolores, nodding off in Frisco, California? Will the ombu in the Dewi Pampa nurture any brotherly feelings about the Antilles Siba? Trees in this park or that forest? Will they whisper in the canopy that the once sacred mistletoe among the gulls is now but a parasite, wielding sap-sucking shoots? Will the cedars of Lebanon know, and will so the mahogany in Corinth, that their unrelenting enemies are neither the camaway palm nor the Tasmanian eucalyptus, but rather the lumberjack's persistent axe, the saw of the great timber giants, and the lightning suddenly with splashing in the night.
What
Thank
I
you
was
so
thinking,
much.
what I was thinking as well, is it possible, could you put that poem into the chat, or perhaps a link to find that poem online?
Oh yeah, I can, that's no problem.
I was also thinking as you were talking before you read the poem about how trees are also symbolic of our need to root ourselves in the earth and understand place, understand where we are from in terms of our geography. Actually, this is another project that we are launching as well. It's something called the Sacred Site and Watershed Mapping Project, of the Unity Network. And so as we move forward, as we plant the trees of peace and reconciliation in our local communities, we want to map the location of those trees as sacred sites in our local communities, but we would like them to be put on a dynamic map, something like a Google map, but with a layer that shows not the streets or the borders of the human creation, but the watersheds and the actual flows of the water wherever we live, so we can understand those downstream repercussions of our actions upstream. And this actually relates to the whole concept of upstream thinking as well. And given that we can start as well to educate our youth about really the places they live, where they live, the geography of their own communities, and the impacts of what they do within those geographies, within those watersheds, on other people and beings, living things in those watersheds as they
Calgary
develop their
specifically, like
communities.
we had, like, that's a very good point. I mean, for watersheds, because they enter into the aisle, like, is of energy resources management. So obviously, like, it's much more, I mean, it has to be kind of like a access through a higher level of decision making at the government level, obviously. So, but Calgary particularly, like, we had a huge flooding event of the Bow River in 2011, and it affected, like, the nearby parks by the St. Patrick's in downtown, well, High River, in the neighboring communities. Like, it all got flooded and affected, like, all, like, we have big park areas surrounding the rivers in downtown. So actually, like, one of the areas around the Bow River, it's kind of like touching point for migrating species of birds coming from northern areas and going south in the fall, so, and late in the fall. So yeah, for the 2 or 3 years after the flooding, like, the birds, I think it's like the Canadian ducklings, I mean ducks, so they couldn't actually touch ground in Calgary, where they traditionally, I mean, it's a migrating route for the birds, and they have this sort of memory in their migrating pathways, obviously. But yeah, no, it's like they had to go farther east, I believe, just for touching points when migrating south for, like, at least 3 years. So even though, like, there was no water anymore, there was so much destruction around until it was rebuilt and everything. So yeah, obviously, like, there is big impact and everything that is, I mean, this is close to the watershed as well in Calgary, so, which is like the Bow River shed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Could I ask, are there entities in Alberta that are equivalent to what Ontario has, called the Toronto, or the conservation authorities? We have something called the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, and different conservation authorities that were established in the province, actually following what was called Hurricane Hazel, which was a hurricane that came so far inland, I believe in the early either 1910s or 20s, that actually created massive flooding through the entire watershed, and destroyed so much cropland and so many buildings in Toronto and the region area that the province itself at that time set up these conservation authorities that were in charge of protecting the watersheds and ensuring that those types of flooding events, for instance, did not cause damage to farms, buildings, infrastructure, businesses, whatever, in those watersheds. So I don't know if there's an equivalent in Alberta.
Oh yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, obviously, like, I mean, in Calgary, we have the Bow Habitat Environmental Center, actually, but I don't know, like, what's the level of connection to government or to provincial government, because provincial government has obviously like the management of parks and centers, like booths areas, and but yeah, I think that I can't really like recall. I mean, it was like an especially like it was after like a especially harsh winter, so obviously like I don't know if we could have like they could have minimized impact on the surrounding areas. But I mean, I know like other provinces, as you mentioned, like Manitoba, like they have more proactive, like protection of their like lands around nearing rivers before like potential flooding. So I can't really recall like what was like the event. Kind of like it was like a specific like heavier rains throughout that springtime. Actually, because I wasn't in Canada at the time when it happened. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, so yeah, it was like completely devastating for all. Calgary was like, I mean, it was like for weeks after the flooding, like it was completely like halt. We couldn't have
Well,
any.
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gemma. Perhaps Lloyd and you can follow this up afterwards. In the chat, Lloyd, you have several comments. Carlos in particular has an important comment, but again, if Nikki DePrima, if you're there and can unmute yourself, I know your time is limited. And I wanted to know, Nikki, if you can unmute and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I'm glad to see you all. I'm Nikki DePina. I'm based in London, and I'm with the organization Global Peace Led Talk. So we have members across the world, and we focus on the Sustainable Development Goals, and we have chapters with the team working together to implement specific projects that will lead to achieving the goals. And that is basically what we do. So we're extremely active. We're also extremely busy, but we love what we do. And I love the project of Earth Day. That means a lot to us, because that's something that really matters for the future generation, that we have proper taking care of this world of ours. So thank you very much. I came on a bit late, but I love that poem. I wonder if I could also ask if you'd post it onto the group. It's an awesome poem. We also have an arts and culture chapter where we have poets from across the world and writers, and that's actually, I shouldn't say this, one of my favorite chapters, because I love the creativity from people that are able to just let go and be. So it's a pleasure to be with you again, Andrew. I'm so happy to see you, and we'll talk soon. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Nikki. But you know, Lloyd has already drafted you to participate with this next tea diplomacy event. So I'm drafting you to get all of your organizations to register with the United Nations Global Compact, starting with you, and then we'll work from there. Lloyd, yes. I'm going to share my screen now with the Earth Hour website, earthday.org, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Give me just a moment, please.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate that Nikki and Global Peace Let's Talk, of course, is our primary sponsor for the Tea Diplomacy Initiative events as well, in partnership with the Global Forum for Sustainable Rural Development in India. And so we are working together to do these events. We actually would like many more. We want to feature many more, especially local organizations, NGOs, and people, humanitarian enterprises who are actually working in these local communities around the world. So during our Tea Diplomacy event, I will be inviting more people to feature their logo and their website and a description of their organization, so we can feature them as part of our network during this tea diplomacy event. So the ones I had listed earlier are all of those organizations. So hopefully just the beginning.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen, as I said now. This is earthday.org, and you can find this link in your chat as well. But I did want to just reiterate for those people that aren't able to access the chat that Earth Day 2022 is a day for us to invest in our planet. This is the moment to change it all. The business climate, the political climate, and how we take action on climate. Now is the time for the unstoppable courage to preserve and protect our health, our families, and our livelihoods. For Earth Day 2022, we need to act boldly, innovate broadly, and implement equitably. It is going to take all of us, all in, businesses, governments, and citizens, everyone accounted for and everyone accountable, a partnership for the planet. So I'm going to briefly share this 1-minute video on YouTube, and the link again is in the chat, so you can access it as well, if you so choose.
My name is
But I don't
Kathleen
hear a
Rogers,
sound.
and I am president of Earth Day.
It's good.
I'm here today to talk about the theme of Earth Day 2022, which is invest in our planet. Our goal is to engage more than 1 billion people, governments, and institutions, along with businesses. And by using Earth Day as a platform, we aim to push aside the barriers that have been erected by the fossil fuel industry and economy and redirect all of our attention to creating a 21st century economy that brings back the healing and health of our planet, protects all of our species, including our own, and provides opportunities for everyone on the planet. People, governments, and businesses all fear change. But the status quo, the way we live today, is changing before our eyes. In building our future, individuals, businesses, entrepreneurs, inventors, and governments each have a unique role. We need to act individually and together. My name is Kathleen Rogers, and I am president.
Thank you for allowing me to share that. And before we move forward, Lloyd, I am going to go back one more time to the website so that you can actually see options. There are toolkits available. So I'm suggesting that we take this opportunity and take advantage of the toolkits that are already available to us.
Industry economy and redirect all of our attention to creating a 21st century economy that brings back the healing and health of our planet, protects all of our species, including our own, and provides opportunities for everyone on the planet.
Okay, here we go. So there are toolkits here, and I've lost my screen, so I hope you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, there are science and education toolkits that are available for free use anywhere in the world. And again, just for those that can't see the screen, to encourage and inspire local leaders to engage their communities in environmental activism, earthday.org has launched multiple toolkits to take on several of the world's most pressing issues. We need to build a global citizenry fluent in the concept of climate change and inspired by environmental education to act in defense of the planet. So this is earthday.org/our-toolkits. So you can download free toolkits anywhere in the world. There's an action toolkit, a great global cleanup toolkit, plastic pollution primer and action toolkit, climate literacy action toolkit, fashion for the earth toolkit, how to sustainably shop for your clothes, fashion for the earth toolkit, how to care for your clothes, teach in toolkit, climate civics toolkit, and bee conservation toolkit. Also, you can join the world's largest environmental movement just by including your email address and zip code to sign up for information. But of course, you can also become a volunteer. So thank you so much for allowing me to share. And I'll turn it back over to you and the team. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That was excellent. The information that is available to us, especially to our educators and to our parents, who can educate teach their children about these issues. I wanted to, as well, I'm going to share in the chat another related organization, or another related event, I should say, which is the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration, which began in 2021 and goes through 2030. And so this UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration aims to prevent, halt, or reverse the degradation of ecosystems on every continent and in every ocean. It can help to end poverty, combat climate change, and prevent mass extinction. It will only succeed if everyone plays a part. So the UN Decade, www.decadeonrestoration.org, is part of what we are also celebrating during this time between 2020 to 2030. As we
Lloyd, there was a hand raised briefly. I'm not sure if that person changed their mind or if it was overlooked, but I know you can't see your screen, so I'm doing my best to help support you here. Was there, and also Carlos has put a comment in the chat. So Carlos, did you want to address that? Because we have about 14 minutes left. So anyone that hasn't spoken, now's that time.
I had a question about the link to the Earth Day toolkits, but I found it. So I put my hand back down. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you, okay, was that link put into the chat for everybody?
Yes, earthday.org. It's not complicated.
Oh, okay. No, okay. All right.
Carlos, you had a comment in the chat. You want to share that if you're able to unmute yourself? Also, Ayadeli, if you're still with us, I wanted to ask you if you'll be open to considering collaborating with us in our media campaigns going forward, but we could talk about that offline. So I'll turn it back over to you, Lloyd.
Well, I'm looking at a couple names. I'm not sure if we've heard from Susan yet. She wants to introduce herself as well.
My name is Susan from Kenya. I work for Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, and have worked for the government of Kenya now for the last almost 40 years. And recently I got my what do you call this? I got my pension, a letter for pension. Appreciated by the government of Kenya for all that. And I have been working really on Ministry of Agriculture, working with youth groups, women groups, training them on urban technology devices, food security, shifting urban farming to the rural farming to the urban. Right now, that's what we are practicing, shifting rural farming to the urban. And also growing of trees, working with 4K clubs. And 4K clubs, that is a project that was left out for some time in the country. And it was revived last year, probably, yeah, about last year, beginning of last year. So we are initiating growing of vegetables on urban technology devices, integrated pest management. We are also practicing growing of other crops like, tree nurseries. And we are also teaching 4K Club on ICT, integration of ICT in agriculture, livestock, and business. I'm also teaching farmers how to grow trees in the nurseries, vegetables. Right now, we have plenty of rain now. The rainy season is on, and we are preparing farmers to plant trees. And with this planting of trees in the month of June, we are emphasizing so much that we may be able to plant edible trees like fruit trees, macadamia nuts, Hass avocados, cashew nuts, all those kind of fruit trees and edible trees. This will be good, and we have started already. Because UnityNet Kenya is not registered officially, and the fact that I work in the Ministry of Agriculture, I take that as a personal initiative in the Ministry of Agriculture. I have a few months to work with the government, and I am advocating that, and I'm asking farmers to prepare holes, and also I'm trying to look for tree seedlings wherever I can, and be able to plant as few as I can, because the target was 2 million for Kenya, and I don't even think we can reach 1 million or even 500,000. This will take personal initiatives because we don't have fundings really up to date. Maybe next month we can be able to liaise with the continental president, and he may give us the way forward. Meanwhile, I'm engaged in 1 million kitchen garden. Establishment of 1 million kitchen garden is a project. It's government funded, and already we have vegetable seeds. We also have shade nets. We have solar dryers. We have chemicals, pesticides, and fungicides for the vegetables. And we are prepared so much to be able to train farmers how to establish vegetable nursery, and that may be able to have plenty of vegetables. And because the rains this year are promising, I could say that as from the beginning, we would like to have all farmers have kitchen gardens in their homes, leaving no one behind. And when the vegetables are plenty, we are also going to, I'm trying to have a program where I'll be able to teach farmers how to preserve vegetables to be used, to be preserved and kept to be used when the rains are not there and vegetables in the garden are scarce or cannot be found at all. So we have the solar dryers that we shall use in the month of June, July, and August to blanch and dry vegetables and be able to store them in airtight tins for use in the family when vegetables are not there. So this is what we are trying to do for food security. And we thank the government of Kenya, and we thank all those who are collaborating with us in the field, the farmers, the youth groups, the women groups, that they take up these technologies, that we give them positively because it is to their benefit. Thank you so much, Professor Loy. Thank you, Sir Andrew Williams, and everyone else who has participated today. Thank you for the opportunity that you have given me to introduce myself and to be able to say a little bit of what I do in the field here in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, so much. Could I just say as well that Susan is also the head of the Unity 4K Clubs network as well. We are wanting to eventually replicate the successes that are happening in Kenya, across the rest of Africa, and eventually around the world. At the local level.
If you'll allow me to share this brief 6-minute video about this very topic, I believe we'll be able to get a better understanding of what we're involved with here.
Yes, go ahead.
How different is this going to be from the previous 4K clubs that we knew when we were growing up? And you're the champion of this. How did this come about?
Actually, back in 1962 is when we used to have the original, the old 4K clubs, where I believe you are a member if you're as old as me.
In 62.
1962. I know you are barely a thought, but on 3rd of 1962 is when our leaders back then, they had gone for a benchmarking trip in the US, and they actually came and introduced 4K clubs in our country. They learned from a model called 4H. They came, of course, customize it to our localized needs, and we call them 4K, which stands for Kuungana, Kufanya, Kusaidia Kenya. Of course, back in the days, for those people who are as old as me, and maybe a bit older, the club characteristics were, we would go to the school plot, we would go weed or plant. We used to have those little gardens. Again, we would rear small stocks, rabbits, goats, and the likes. We had the production aspect being the most critical point of these particular clubs.
I'm not sure why it stopped, but oh, let's see here. I'm gonna have to reshare that. Bear with me just a moment.
If you don't study hard, you'll end up being a farmer. So again, the perspective towards agriculture started declining. And now in the wake of the revival and in the wake of His Excellency the President, taking patronage of this particular club, several aspects of the rebranded 4K clubs are coming into play, where we are saying now we are introducing the positive youth development model, which we want that model to be the anchor around all the 4K clubs programming. And the positive youth development model, we want to focus on bringing up a holistic child. A holistic child who's competent, who has character, who is compassionate, who is able to make a connection with others, and a child who is able to make an overall contribution to their societies and to their country. Again, so the remodeled version has the PYD, the Positive Youth Development Model, incorporated in the programming. Again, it has a regalia system. So we have different categories being branded, where you saw at the launch on 4th of June, His Excellency the President has had his own regalia, and His Excellency the President is actually the patron to all the 4K clubs in the country. Again, the deputy patron being our Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Honorable Peter Munya, again having his own set of regalia. The governors at the counties are the patrons in their respective counties, again led by Governor Martin Wambora, the chair of the COG. Again, the governors have their own set of regalia. There's a regalia system from the sub-county, ward agricultural officer, the school patron, and also the 4K club members. These are regalia that we have already designed, and what we are now doing is being able to map out the relevant partners to be able to make available regalia, such as what I'm wearing today is not in the regalia system, but it's something that can be worn by anyone who wants to champion, by anyone who just wants to don on the 4K regalia. So again, we will be giving guidelines on where you can be able to draw this regalia for. And this will be the official regalia to be used for actually, it's the dress policy for any time we have the club activities for youth.
Yeah.
The rebranded version also worth mentioning, it has a presidential award scheme to be able to encourage and also to be able to motivate the kids who are in this particular club. So the award scheme will draw the highest award being given by His Excellency the President, who is the patron, for the club members and also the best performing club member. Again, guidelines are being drawn to be able to guide how the award process will be, and also being able to invite the children and the schools to be able to partake of the competitions and then leading to the awards. At the county level, the governors will be able to oversee the awards, and then also at the institutional level, the awards will be given by the school patron or the head teacher, depending on the consultations from various schools. But again, maybe worth mentioning, Trevor, is a manual has been developed, and also a website, and populated with all these things that I'm just picking a few of them and mentioning, to be able to facilitate the workings. And this manual also has the 5 thematic areas that we'll be focusing on for now, which environmental conservation, to deal with issues of climate change. We'll also be having a healthy living and nutrition, issue of STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We'll also be having citizenship and civic engagement, and also agricultural projects, of course, broadly covering areas on agricultural, crop development, livestock, and fishery, so that any child can partake of an activity alongside these 5 thematic areas.
Oprah Winfrey was humiliated on her own show.
Sit down. Sit down.
So that was excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that.
For allowing me to share that. What I'm suggesting, Susan Diego, is during the remainder of your participation in the government, that we throw all of our efforts and resources to support you in that position, because as I understand it, the government of Kenya has provided a website that provides a way that has a toolkit. Lloyd just earlier mentioned taking this throughout the entire continent of Africa. I suggest we begin right there in Kenya using the toolkits that are there available now, and then do the work that the government has claimed it wants to do, but we do it from the grassroots up. And so that would be my recommendation for Carlos, yourself, Lloyd, myself, and others to align our efforts to support you in your current position, but to also look forward to the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew, very much. And I will be putting also the link to the Global Unity 4K Clubs Network, which is described as a conversation about the establishment of the Global Unity 4K Clubs in local communities across all of the Global Unity Network country chapters around the world, and describes the meaning of the Global Unity 4K Clubs as slightly different than what had been described. The 4Ks are Kungana or unite, Kunfanya act or do, Kusaida or Kusadia to help. And we have changed from Kenya to Kwanzaa, which is actually the word for the African Harvest Festival. And there's a link to Kwanzaa on Wikipedia, as well as the important word of Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles of African heritage. So these, again, we heard about as well the 5 thematic areas of the 4K clubs in Kenya, which we would like to bring again across Africa and eventually worldwide as well.
Lloyd,
I ended up recruiting a group out of Portland, Oregon that ended up murdering an Ethiopian student.
Wow.
And at that point, that woke me up.
I
I
apologize for
realized
sharing
that
my
there's
screen
consequences
abruptly.
to ideas.
But I wanted to
When
share with you
you know,
the CAB Africa website. That's the Center for African Volunteers in Kenya, and that's headed up by Josephat Moses. So I have the distinction of being the chairperson of their International Advisory Board for CAB Africa. So Susan Diego, I would like to establish a more formal relationship with you through the Center for African Volunteers, and hopefully follow up with you after this chat about ways we can go about that. Thank you.
Very good idea, but we should start to formalize the relationships between especially our UnityNet nodes, all of these different things that we are doing, and some of the existing organizations that can help to bring these programs across all the different nations and continents around the world as we build this network. So with that, I'm seeing it is 3 minutes after 1. It has been 2 hours that we have been on the call. If I don't know if there are any other comments or people that would like to introduce themselves if they have not yet done so. If not, I guess we can probably wrap up for today.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Hello, Ayodele.
Yes, Ayodele, go right ahead.
Yeah, good evening. This is Ayodele from Uganda, the president of UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, and also the Continental Director of Media and Communications. So I'm very glad to be on this platform and to see how we can bring a change to Africa and the entire globe. I think it will be good if we can utilize some of the advantage and the opportunity that we are having at this moment, because there is no there's no time to be wasted. Also, especially at the side of the UnityNet, I think it would be very good if the African continent can be quickly work on the full registration of the organization, so that in any area where we want to partner with the government or any other organization agencies, it will be very, very easy to do that when we are fully registered. So otherwise, we want to say thank you and want to appreciate Prince Andrew for hosting this platform every week. We are so blessed to have you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
So thank you, Ayodele, and certainly let's have a conversation as well with the UnityNet International team about how we can support that registration of UnityNet African Diaspora, and also support essentially the country chapters and ultimately the local chapters, which these UnityNet INAB collaboratives, which is what we are essentially building, is a grand global network of local community support networks connected together through this Interchange for Peace, which will provide support to all of our humanitarian entrepreneurs and all of the businesses that join with us, especially those UN Global Compact members that we would like to have working together with all of our grassroots members to uplift everyone in all local communities.
As a reminder, we are streaming this to the AHIABGA network, and anyone can go there and get that link and share it with any of their other contacts or groups or pages or even on your website. We also have a playlist of all of the 47 UnityNet events we've held so far. That playlist is online through YouTube, but Juliet, Miabo, and Gabriela, hopefully we can work with Ayodele and Carlos to make sure that we are able to provide documentation of the work that we've done, because again, the entire outcome of the Sustainable Development Goals is now oriented on data, and it's up to us to deliver quantitative and evidence-based outcomes for all of the work that we do. It's only in that way that we can achieve transparency and promote anti-corruption by being transparent in our own activities. Thank you.
Very, very, very important as well. This is actually one of the key things that we are working on. So every Wednesday, there is a poverty alleviation Zoom call as well. So we had yesterday. We are continuing those for the next several weeks, as well with the very, very knowledgeable Erwan Rusley from the Rusley Institute, who is focusing on issues of transparency and anti-corruption, and the demonstration of local projects using those frameworks that he has developed himself.
Okay, Lloyd, any closing thoughts? We're about 2 minutes away from 2 hours, so now's the time for closing thoughts, anyone?
I will let others, Gabriela, for instance, have your hand up.
Yes, Gabriela?
Hello?
Yes, go.
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Protocol observed. Yeah, thank you also my able boss at the chapter, Mr. Bishop Ayodele, for your comments. So quickly, I'll just want to talk something about the UnityNet Elderly, the WhatsApp group. On the 15th of June, we shall be commemorating the World Elderly Abuse Awareness Day. So I also encourage everyone as a team leader on that page or on that forum to join the team so that we can arrange or organize as UnityNet African Diaspora what we can do to the world, to speak out to the world out there about the abuses the elderly persons are going through, and we see the way forward. Actually, at Uganda, we shall be getting into preparation as early as May. So I believe other countries also in the diaspora as well will be preparing, because it's a global day, which is already gazetted for the elderly. And we believe also the same month of June, we shall be having our tree planting. So looking forward for better results. And thank you so much, Professor Lloyd, for creating that group WhatsApp for the older persons. And we are looking forward to have constructive discussions on that page. That's all from my end. And thank you so much for everything.
Actually, Gabriella, it's not all from your end, because as you're a member of the Andrew Network's media team, your task is to provide the promotional materials that we need to promote that event and any other event that JFOA is involved with. That's your personal responsibility. So I'm drafting you for that opportunity and responsibility.
Thank you so much, Prince Andrew. I'll do that and get in touch on that page as well. Thank you.
So I have that date of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, June 15th, into the chat with Gabriella's name. You can always contact me if you want to get in contact with Gabriella about that event and join again the Elders and Seniors Network of the Unity Network. So with that,
in closing, Carlos has made it clear he does have challenges, so he's unable to speak, but he has put information in the chat. One of the items that he brought up was proposing a weekly event for volunteers to express their own visions and viewpoints and their own inspirational content. But that's an item we could take off calendar. But Carlos, I do want to arrange a time when we can meet together to determine a course of action that can put all these elements into place. So thank you very much.
thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Ayodele. Thank you, Gabriella. Thank you, everybody, for this excellent session today. One more time, this is the Global Unity Network IGU Summit, Indigenous Young Global Unity Summit event. This was week 46. We will come back next week for week 47 of the IGU Summit, and as we build our Global Unity Network. Thank you all.
All right,
and
I'm going to end it all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. We're just on 2 hours good, so we'll package as a complete presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay.